are going viral. Luka Doncic is well on his way to Rookie of the Year honors, but before he was on everyone's radar, he was training with the best of the best. With leaked footage of Doncic and Steph Curry training together back in August.
Oh, maybe this is where Doncic developed that step back from Steph. I like this now.
Oh, I always like the younger players working out with the veterans. There's so much information that they can get. This is stuff the coaches can't teach you. Man, NBA players, NFL players, Major League Baseball, if a guy has done it, oh man, he's capable of teaching you how to do it. Love it.
And one of the reasons Doncic came into the league so polished is he's been working out with pros, maybe not at Steph Curry level, but pros since he was 14 years old. Been playing against them since he was 15 years old, which is why he can come on and instantly be, as a teenager, one of the 35 best players in the league already. He's been awesome.
Oh, Nick's list, 35 best players in the NBA.
You want the 34 out of it?
Yeah, we're good.
He just, why not 34?
What? Because he's what do you mean?
Because in his head he's 35, not? See?
I actually think he's probably 31 or 32, but I could be leaving someone else, so I gave myself a little wiggle room.
Why not
35 best?
Top 30.
Because I don't think he is.
Top 37 and a half dudes I ever met.
You know what? You know what? Just because I'm into precision and accuracy, I shouldn't be laughed at.
Thank God it's Friday.
You ain't lying.
Time for stories. Your AT&T wake-up call.
I'm writing them down.
Sticking with the NBA, where starters for the All-Star game were announced. And in the West, it'll be LeBron, KD, Paul George, Harden, and Steph Curry. In the East, it's Giannis, Kawhi, Embiid, Kyrie, and Kemba Walker. Nick, did the fans get the starters right?
9 out of 10. I would have included Anthony Davis at the expense of Kevin Durant. Now, obviously, Anthony Davis is going to be an all-star, and in my world, Durant would have been an all-star. I don't look at all-star team the way I look at MVP, where how good your team is has a lot to do with whether or not you're an all-star. To me, it's an individual award based on your individual performance, not a valuable proposition that has to do with team winning, so I would have had AD on.
And you probably prefer a conventional lineup.
Yeah, it's nice to have a real center. You have Embiid on one side.
I mean, we only have a few centers. When you start eliminating that, you're going to miss someone. KD, them being the best team in the NBA, two-time MVP, I think that they should have two starters, him and Steph. So it's hard. It's a good problem to have. AD has been outstanding, though, on a team that hadn't been very good.
Last week, we learned that Kyrie Irving reached out to his former teammate LeBron James. Now Kevin Love is suggesting that Kyrie could potentially reunite with LeBron in L.A. Nick, could Kyrie team up again with LeBron this summer?
I would not say it's the likely outcome, but it is not an impossible outcome the way it would have been a month ago, and it is something that I think people should add to the list of possibilities for Lakers offseason targets.
So you're sensing from that conversation, maybe some things came out of that aren't out there publicly? That's what you're reading?
Correct. That is that. I know there are things that have not been reported and won't be reported about a level of reconciliation between the two that would make this an actual possibility if Kyrie wants to leave Boston, if the Lakers don't get Kawhi. There are a lot of ifs that would have to fall into place, but a month ago, this was impossible. Right. It's no longer impossible.
Oh, I know. You're going to tell me that information because I know you'll snitch.
Oh, squeal?
I know
oh,
you
squeal.
Snitches get stitched.
Yesterday, it was reported that Cam Newton had an arthroscopic procedure on his right shoulder. This is the second shoulder surgery in 3 years for Cam Newton. He had surgery to fix a partially torn rotator cuff back in March of 2017. Steve, what do you make of this?
I'm glad he's able to get it done. I'm glad that, you know, from the time they put him on the shelf, the last couple weeks of the regular season, between then and now, he's rehabbed it. Obviously, they feel that the rehab is not going to be significant enough that they must do a procedure. This is something like Andrew Luck. He thought he didn't need a procedure, tried to rehab it, then ultimately put it off for it. Then they had to go in and correct it. So I'm glad early in the offseason you can get it done to get him back healthy. The NFL is better when Cam Newton is healthy, playing his best football.
And I fully agree with that last part. And also, I'm glad it's arthroscopic surgery. It's not some major surgery where we're talking about a multi-month timeline. This is more of, the way I understand it from reading the local reports, what they think is it's more of a tweak and an adjustment than some type of reconstruction. What are you laughing about? about.
I was getting ready to trick you and tell you the arthroscopic.
No, you can't trick me. I've had that. I've had arthroscopic surgery on my shoulder. See? You can't trick me on that.
Now you got something in common with Cam Newton.
Oh, okay. Oh, and our fashion sense, sir.
Ending with the Antonio Brown saga, the all-pro wideout at the center of trade rumors after a rocky ending with the Steelers. And Brown took to Twitter to weigh in, simply tweeting, "Open for business." CC, which teams should try to deal for Antonio Brown this offseason?
All right, I got it, Nick. I was just messing around earlier in the show. I really got it. I was trying to send into Tom Coughlin, you know, a little correction. My son, about 7th, 8th grade. I was like, listen, son, if you don't get your act together, I'll send you to military school. That's what I'll do. I don't send them that little camp in the summertime, other people 6 weeks up in the mountains, all that, playing with the bugs. No, I'm not going to send him to Jacksonville.
Okay, because that's the NFL military school.
But they do need a #1 receiver. They can run the ball. Put him in Florida with those personalities on that defense. I do believe that can work. But the best spot for him, Cleveland Browns. Go get him.
Oh, I like that idea.
Go to Cleveland with Baker Mayfield, and, man, they would make some things happen. They need an outside #1 guy. Jarvis Landry's been recruiting everyone in the NFL. He's been sending on Twitter,
trying
Instagram,
to get Odell, everything.
Go Cleveland. Cleveland needs another wide receiver. With the way they ran that ball with Kitchens, Baker Mayfield, that defense is underrated, and you get them Steelers twice a year. Now, that would be good for business.
And so I know some people would say you don't trade within your division.
Right,
we've had this discussion before. I think you make the best trade possible. I think that you can't worry about, am I making this other team better? You have to say, what is the best return I can get? Which is why my initial reaction is, if I'm Pittsburgh, I call up San Francisco and I make them have a meeting about the #2 pick of the draft for Antonio Brown. Straight up. No multiple picks.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. That short conversation.
San Francisco says no.
Goodbye.
No, I took a lot of hits to the head, but not that many. Goodbye.
Okay, so you think that's giving up too much?
No, if you give me the top pick or that second pick in the second round, you can have him.
See, so I'm very curious to see if he gets moved, what his actual value is, because Antonio Brown, with his talent level and his contract, which is going to be a great contract.
I don't think the contract is going to help him. It looks like a good contract on paper, but when you make that transaction, Antonio, you know who his agent is?
Was it Tom Condon?
What about Drew Rosenhaus? Oh, okay. So the only way they can make money is by renegotiating an extension. So in that contract, you're getting a 30-year-old receiver who's walked out on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's going to want a new contract. No guy's getting traded and saying, no, I'll come there under this current agreement. Right, so that right there keeps the price down. That's why he's going to be a second round.
All right, we haven't prepped this yet. I'm right now Kevin Colbert. You're John Lynch. I'm going to call you and make the offer. Hey, we'll send you AB for the #2 pick. What do you say?
No.
Okay, how about this? We'll send you AB if we can swap picks. We get the #2, you get the 20th. So you're staying in the first round, you're dropping back 18 spots, and you're getting Antonio Brown. Does that entice you?
You got to give me a little sweetener. I like a little sweetener in my coffee. I need a little something.
All right,
I probably need another third.
Well, a third, I can't give you a third. I can give you a fifth. I can give you a fifth. I can give you the 20th.
Give me a fourth. If you move me back down and give me a fourth, I would take it. I get 2 players.
You guys know this is a fake conversation, right?
Yeah, but listen, hey, man, John Lynch.
No, that's the thing. I almost tweeted it. I was like, big news just happened. Did you hear about the trade?
I saw John Lynch go from working for Fox on television to the GM booth with 6 years guaranteed. I'm just saying.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. I feel like it was a good negotiation, good talking deal. We'll call back. I'm calling.
We should do more of those. It should be a segment called
Role Play.
Fake trade.
That's a weekend segment, Jenna.
Oh, Nick. Oh, Dusty like that one. Back to the Super Bowl. The Patriots offense has been hot this postseason.
Friday's always a good day to get fired.
We don't usually get that from you.
You never get it from me.
You never get that from me.
You never get
I was a little bit surprised.
I know.
And very impressed.
You got plenty of heathen off in you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Patriots are averaging 39 points this postseason.
He's no choir boy. At 5'9", he raised a lot of hell.
All right, Jenna, please keep talking.
Good luck defending against that Patriots offense unless you are one Wade Phillips. Even though this is the first trip to the Super Bowl for the majority of the Rams team, they have a calming force in Wade Phillips, their D coordinator, who has won a Super Bowl. Bill Belichick spoke about Wade and the Rams defense yesterday.
I don't think they're going to, we're going to see like 3 new fronts and 3 new coverages in this game that he hasn't run in the last 30 years. I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen, but it does, we'll adjust to it. But that's they do what they do in their system. They do it well. They have a lot of confidence in it, which they should. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He's been doing it for 30 years in multiple organizations with multiple groups of players against every kind of offense he could see. So, yeah, I remember dealing it with him when I was in Cleveland. It's basically, and to his credit, there's not many of us that have a system that can last that long. And, I've certainly changed a lot in the last 30 years, schematically. Wade really hasn't. I mean, he really hasn't.
All right, Cece, what should the Patriots expect from Wade Phillips and that defense?
I think it's difficult for Wade. The last time he was in a matchup like this, he had a Denver Broncos team, very, very similar as far as the corners. Actually, one of the corners is still the same in Talib. But most of his pressure that he could get was from the outside in Von Miller. And that's what New England feared. And then in doing that, we know Tom Brady likes to step up. So if you have outside pressure, typically it becomes harder on the offense because you either have to have a tight end stay in and help chip block and or a running back. Man, those are two of Tom Brady's favorite targets, how they want to run their offense. So I believe with the interior pressure that the Rams present, that I believe that Tom Brady, he's on single block suing them more than you think because he can get the ball out to his tight end or the running back to alleviate the pressure. So I think Wade should go back to an old 46, Buddy Ryan type defense. He played that defense in Philadelphia with Reggie White where you cover up the center and the two guards. Let them tackle stay on an island because if you do that, each one of those guys is single block. New England interior, center, and their two guards, I would say the best interior offensive line in the NFL in 2018. But you make them single block compared to combination blocks, which they love to do, 90 dropbacks in the playoffs, not sacked one time because that great interior pressure. So if I'm Wade, I'm lining up in some bare fronts, Buddy Ryan style. I'm covering up all three of those guys because that is the strength of that offensive line, not allowing them to double team Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald.
90 dropbacks, no sacks against Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Chris Jones, Justin Houston, D Ford. Only hit 3 times. In the Chiefs game, the Patriots ran 94 plays, pardon me. They had 1 negative play. It was the kneel down at the end of the regulation. Their ability to keep not only Brady upright, but prevent any penetration on running plays was spectacular. I have a question, though, about this 46 defense, see. You just mentioned the things it allows you to do. Anything that has some advantages has to have some drawbacks. What are the downsides? What's the potential reason he wouldn't play a 46 like you're saying?
His linebackers going to have to play. Linebackers have to play man-to-man, and you identify one high safety. He knows you're going to be in man-to-man. I like the matchups on the outside of the corners, being able to lock down the wide receivers. That's the reason why I like a 46. One of the plus-minuses, one of the linebackers is going to be blitzing in that 46. So you take him out of coverage. So there's a big plus there, and there are a few minuses. That's why a lot of teams don't play 46 defense on the regular in the NFL.
So I think the audience might know this. Listen, I'm partial to Wade. I know Wade. Wade and I used to do radio together when I was in Houston, and I think Wade somehow has gotten a bad rap about what a good coach he's been at every stop, including a head coach. This guy's 82-64 as a head coach, .562 winning percentage. Went to the playoffs 5 of his 8 years he was a full-time head coach. Only had 1 losing season as a full-time head coach.
Only reason why he wasn't successful as a head coach, he didn't have postseason success, and Wade is not going to win the press conference.
No.
He is not going to be. We think he's funny as players and other coaches and those who get to know him. But a lot of times when you have that type of coach, he doesn't win those press conferences. People take away from his football IQ for some reason just because he's not demanding. He is not that kind of speaker on a daily, weekly basis.
And the way he sounds, people judge him and think he's not bright. And he's incredibly bright. It's just not fair. It's just whether it's his drawl or the way he kind of carries himself. And by the way, the lack of playoff success, I mean, he was the victim of the Music City Miracle.
Yes.
That Bills team was a good team. So I say that about Wade because he also, though, has, if we are listing pantheon defensive linemen of the last 30 years, how many of them have been coached by Wade Phillips? Reggie White, is maybe at the top of the list.
Yes.
Bruce Smith might be second on the list. J.J. Watt in the more modern era, and now Aaron Donald. All four of those guys Wade has had. The reason I think he can have more success with this Rams team against Tom Brady, Jenna, than he had when he was the D coordinator for the Texans and they got lit up by Tom Brady is he didn't have the corners. In Houston, Jonathan Joseph was a good corner. They couldn't find the complement to him. And to have Talib and Peters, who we've now seen them both healthy, what they can do with a motivated Ndamukong Suh, and we know how good Aaron Donald is, if that linebacking core can just hold up, I think Wade can do some things now. I think this defense can present real problems for a Patriots team that just annihilated the Chargers in the first half, won the game there, and hung 37 on a Chiefs team that hadn't given up 30 at home in 4 years. So I think Wade is well positioned for this matchup, assuming the weakness of the team, that linebacking core, can hold up just a bit.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up is Sean Payton heading to the Cowboys. That's next on First Things First. It was that sports reporter that covered Wade, his first press conference in Buffalo. Front row, sat there.
What?